It's so good to see you, my friend. I'm so excited for this episode because it's summertime.
It's
Yay!
summertime and all the kids are done with school. No, yours aren't yet, right?
Yeah, mine have, in theory, 2 more weeks, but really just a couple of days.
Okay. Well, hello everyone else. Welcome to episode 18.
18. Yeah,
And it's been almost a year since we started this. Because
crazy.
we talked all about this last summer while we were on break, and we tried to meet every week, and then it just kind of fell apart because it's the summer, and that's kind of what happened last week too. That's why we're a little late recording this.
Yes.
But yeah, so Marissa's kids are almost done with school. Mine have been done since the end of May because the Midwest is weird like that. They get out before the summer break starts with Memorial Day, which is the last Monday in May. So they get out the Friday before. Actually, our senior got out 2 weeks prior to that. My the junior, who was in mostly senior classes, pretty much was done for those 2 weeks. I mean, some of her teachers basically just sent her home. They were like, oh, you know what? You can watch a movie, play on your phone, or just go home. Goodbye. So she had done all the AP tests and all the finals with the seniors, and she spent a lot more time at home than the middle schoolers did.
That's kind of how it is here when you're in middle school and high school, right? Like, um, because there's like the end of year, uh, there's the baccalaureate if you're in high school in the equivalent of 11th and 12th grade. Uh, and all the teachers have to facilitate those exams. Like once they start studying for it or giving the exams, like they're not teaching classes anymore. So Owen's been done since June 6th, when the official last day of school is June 4th, July 4th. But but yeah, like he's had this year, he has one baccalaureate, and so he's had to continue to study, but he hasn't had any classes since June 6th. And then in middle school for Zachary, they have the brevet, like the end of middle school exam for ninth graders, and that's this coming Wednesday and Thursday, so the 25th and 26th. And so his last day of school's Tuesday, and then in theory, he's supposed to go until July 4th. But again, it's like nobody goes. They just guarantee that the doors of the school will be open if parents want to send their kids. But yeah, they'll be home. But it
So
always,
that's why. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, like, it's always nice. It's been nice for us having kids at this younger age where they don't have to be here to the last day of the exams, because it means we can travel home before the plane tickets go up. Right? That's like back in the when they were little and they had to stay until the last day of school. It was like, oh my God, like they're either gonna have to miss school or we're gonna have to pay a whole lot of extra money to fly once school gets out. So it's been kind of nice to, yeah, to be in this age range where they can they're not missing any school to fly home. So
And that's. I'm sorry for interrupting. That's what I was going to ask. So, are you leaving like directly the day they get out, or are you're leaving before?
so yeah, so Owen already, so he has two baccalaureate exams this year, the French oral and the French written. So he took the French written last 2 weeks ago, last week. I don't know, yeah, last week. And then the his oral exam is on July 1st, and we're leaving July 2nd. Because plane tickets go up on July 5th. So I was like, well, if you don't have to be there. And I think yeah, like so we one of the reasons we wanted to go home this year or go back this summer was because next year Owen will be applying to university, and the way the university application system works, like it's going to be virtually impossible for him to go back to the States next year because you kind of are like on call in case like waiting to hear if you got into the programs and then having to like look for apartments where those universities are because they don't have the same number of they don't have huge dorms like they do in the US
Forgot
university
about that.
system. So we were like, this is kind of like our last year traveling back to the States as the four of us. So we felt like it was even more important to make the trip. So yeah. And we've talked about this, and one of the reasons we wanted to have this episode of like summer plans, because summer vacation is so different, and how Europeans versus Americans plan the summer is so different. Um,
Yeah,
and
like
so we thought,
everyone goes on vacation.
yeah,
It's not, even if you don't have the means to, travel internationally, or you don't have family where you can stay for free, like in our case. But there are everybody goes on vacation somewhere, even if it's driving places. Oftentimes it's to another country because Europe is so quick. I mean, it's like in the United States, just going to the neighboring state. Now you're in the neighboring country. But even if you drive, even if you tent camp, and when I was a kid, we would spend 3 weeks in France tent camping, which was way cheaper, obviously, than staying in a hotel. But it was doable on a smaller budget, and every yeah, it's just it needs to be done because you need to recharge for the next year, and families like to spend that time together. In the US, not everybody. There are a lot of people that don't travel out of out of their hometown at
yeah.
all summer. The summer break is twice as long as it is in Europe, right? Because
Well,
in
it
Germany it's
depends.
6 weeks for summer break.
Yeah, and we talked about this. So in France it's 8 weeks.
In the US it's 12.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
get 12 weeks of summer break, and a lot of kids don't, they just get thrown into camps every week, not necessarily because the parents don't want to travel or don't have the means to travel. It's because they don't get vacation time. And
yeah.
vacation time is not, it is not as important here. And even though they might want to go out of town, the
And
parents don't have time.
need the vacation because
Yeah,
their
but they
jobs
don't,
are not easy. Like,
yeah, but I don't think they think about it as, oh, a vacation would allow me to recharge and to be more productive when I get back to work, because it's just not ingrained in the American mind. Like you're supposed to work, 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 work. It's just,
yeah.
I'm sorry, we're not recording this on YouTube this week, but I'm clapping my hands. Just
Yeah. If you're
focus
watching the
on,
video version of this, as
yeah.
there's well, and it's funny because I mean, you and I have talked about this a lot over the 15 years that we've lived here, but certainly like, even before we moved here, um, this this energy here is that like you work to go on vacation. So there is much more like everybody's planning, like, what am I going to do for the 4 weeks of, so here in France, like people either take like all of July or all of August. And there's actually like these two camps. Like they'll ask, like, are you a juilletiste or an outien? Like, which I love. But like, um, there's such a culture of like people don't ask what you do, they ask where you're going for vacation. And so yes, like there are um you know camps to send your kids to, but they're for the rest of the time, right? But there is much more, like you said, this culture of we're going to take time this summer to do something as a family, and we're going to go somewhere, and it might just be to the beach, like like you said, camping at the beach here in Bordeaux, that's like an hour away, right? Or we're going to go visit family in another part of France. The French government subsidizes vacation if you stay in France. So because it keeps right, it keeps money circulating within the French tourist industry. Um, so
I
there's
did not know that, but that explains why there were why so many French people never traveled out of the country. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and then even within like if you work in the public sector, um, oh, like the university that Sean works at, they actually own vacation homes all over France and like camp like mobile homes all over France. And so you actually can like book like it's almost like you get this like collective timeshare if you work in the public and some of the private companies have them too, but like he gets a booklet at the beginning of the year that's like here are all the places throughout France, and then you can book the vacations you want to go to and where you want to go. So there
That's
really
like
is this
Pora.
culture of go on vacation.
That's like Prora. So the island of Rügen outside of eastern Germany, there's a building that's it was right by the sea, and I think now you can actually stay there. I think they've completely rehabbed it, but the under it, during the Third Reich, it was built by Hitler. I mean, obviously not personally, but um, and Germans got this booklet in the beginning of the year, and they could sign up for a week or two, whatever, because the vacation was important to take, and you could stay there for free. It's kind of a museum. I toured it as a museum back in, I think, 2016. And because when I was a kid, I couldn't even go there. It was East Germany, but then later it was used by the East German army as like barracks and training grounds, and that's so funny that the French government has something like
Yeah.
that.
They're like,
Nazis,
here are
I
these
thought the Nazis
properties.
invented it.
Here are these properties that you can go and stay at. Um, yeah, that's crazy. That's really fascinating. Like
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it.
totally,
It's
because
called Prora, I think.
okay. Yeah, for sure.
It, these little rooms. It was like a resort to go to. And I don't know if it. I don't know how many years it was actually in use, or if it was because I don't think it was completely done ever during the Third Reich. If I remember it correctly, I don't know. It's been almost 10 years since I saw it. I'm
Yeah.
trying to picture it, and I know they've changed it. I read about it that they've changed it. But anyway,
That's
that's
so fascinating. Yeah, this is absolutely another episode to talk about too, but um yeah, I like all the things that I've been hearing a lot about the ways that like Germans have taken the buildings that were built in the Third Reich and turned them into museums, turned them into learning centers. Um, so but going back to vacation, because I was just like, oh, like
yes,
I could go vacation there and like learn history, but and see the museums. But one of the things about France, and I'm curious if this is true in Germany too, again about this culture of vacation, is um it's actually real like I don't want to say frowned upon because that's not sort of the right level, but like they make it really hard to work in the summer. Like where again, Sean at the university, um, his his office, there are departments that are like shut down and you have to get like special permission to like for your key card to work in the building during those months, like so that they can also sort of keep track of who's there for security reasons. But um, but we talked about this between like Christmas and New Year's, like he cannot go into his office building without special permission. Like the key card machine is turned off. So there really is this culture, and people don't, back when we first moved here, um, like people don't put out of office replies on their emails. Like, so there's just really this like very this expectation that if you need anything in July or in August, you're kind of SOL. Like you're probably not going to get like any paperwork done, any like you're not going to be if you have a passport to renew, you got to get that done before everybody goes on vacation on July 4th because you don't the embassies are probably not going to be processing the documents and the administration papers. And then even like the first couple of weeks of September, everybody's like catching up from vacation. And so you're probably not going to get like anyone to answer the phone because they're all like just going through their inbox. But that was really shocking when we moved here was like, that because Zach was born in the middle of June. And so we didn't travel that summer. And in July and August, it was just like, we're trying to get like
Birth
his birth
certificate.
certificate and his like all of the like papers. And it was like you had to navigate like you'd email somebody and like you wouldn't hear anything, and then you'd like call and you wouldn't hear anything, and all the French people were like, oh yeah, just wait till September. Like it's fine. Like, and maybe even October. Like don't even try to do anything. Like, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
here.
it like that in Germany too? Like, is it really hard to get anything done summertime if you need administrative
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah. I mean, summertime is usually. I remember my dad would always say, "Why shouldn't I travel? Because it's hard to get a meeting together anyway. Everyone's gone." And I remember, obviously, again, showing my age here, but I do remember him every couple of days he would walk down to the public, like the payphone at the campsite, and call into work to just see, hey, how's it going with the like three people that are there? Like, did anything happen? And
Anything, any emergencies I need to know about?
right.
Um,
Not that he was going to get in the car and drive 12 hours back to
right,
do
exactly.
anything about it.
I'm making a tea from here. Like, yeah, forget it.
But I do think part of it too, though, in Europe is most buildings don't have air conditioning. So the summer, you're supposed to go out to the beach or go somewhere where you can at least enjoy the sunshine and relax and
Yeah,
recharge, as opposed to sitting sluggish in an office that doesn't have air conditioning and you don't want to be there. I don't know.
for sure. I mean, it's been like it hit 100 this week here in Bordeaux, and I didn't even want to leave my house, let alone be in my kid's school, where because of like how the windows are like facing uh it felt like I was there for a meeting and we had to move rooms because it was so hot. Like and like the parents and the teachers were like, we can't be in this room. And I'm like, you made the kids be in this room all day. Like so absolutely 100 like none of the schools are built with air conditioning. Um
Anyone listening from not the United States, 100 degrees is about 40,
oh
42
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hit 41 here in Bordeaux
There
uh
you go.
on
It's
Tuesday.
hot.
I had to do the math in my head because I was talking to people in the US and I was like, as I kept saying, I was like, it's like 37 and 41. Like every day I was like, it's not. And they're like, I don't know what that means. Like that sounds cold. I was like, no.
Yeah, I still, after so many years of living in the States, I still don't know. I know that 32 is freezing. I know anything over 90, I'm going to be really hot. Anything that's 50, 60, maybe somewhere between 50 and 70, I don't know if I'm taking a jacket or not. Like it's,
I'm kind of the opposite way. Like I know that like anything kind of between like 20 and 26, like I'm going to enjoy. But if it's like above 28, it's starting to get a little too, and sunny, it's starting to get a little too hot. And, um, but like if you tell me that it's like 15 or 10, I'm like, is that like because there's a like I need a coat at 10, but I'm like maybe just like a sweatshirt at 15, right? Like there's this limit. I'm like, I just don't know. Even after living here for 15 years, like I still have to kind of do the math in my head to go like, oh yeah, right. No, that's gonna be cold, like, or that's gonna be really hot. For this week, 41, I was just like, that I knew. Anything
Yeah,
above
41 is
body, like body temperature's 27, I've done enough. Like I've had kids long enough that and been like they can't go to school if they have a fever above 20 or 38.
37. Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, if like I know a fever is 38. So if it's a 37 is 98.6, it's normal body temperature. So anything above 37, like, no, thank you. Like,
I never thought about it that way. 98 in terms of the body temperature. That makes perfect
yeah,
sense.
37 is body temperature in France, in South.
Yeah, no, in Germany too, obviously. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, because I remember when one of my kids was my first one was really small, and we had the ear thermometer, but it showed Fahrenheit. And so, at what point should I be worried?
Yeah.
Like, I know in Germany, after 39, I'm going to start really monitoring it, and after at 40, I would give medication. But what exactly is that now? It was yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I like
So
going back to the vacation thing. So it sounds like it's really it's similar. Like they're in Germany and as it is here in France. Like you go on vacation and you're not expected to check in, or there's systems put in place because people are going to be gone for long periods of time. Um, and so there isn't this, you know, like I remember again, like working in the States, even before I worked in the hospital. Like the hospital was obviously a different setting because you had to make sure there was somebody clinically like available to be in clinic. But even when I was working in management consulting and in working in genetics labs, like you couldn't take that many consecutive days off because to the point of your dad, like there might be some emergency and you needed to be there to check in, like, and you couldn't be on the other side. So it was like you might be able to take a week off. But if you wanted to take 2 weeks or more off, you had to save up that time and you had to get like special permission from like the higher ups because like that's a whole lot of time to be taking off work. And here they're like, nope, like we expect you to take 4 weeks vacation in the summertime.
yeah, totally different mindset.
Yeah.
So but you're going to be in the States for more than 4 weeks.
Yeah. So I'm going to be in the States for 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
5 weeks, right?
Yeah. Which is actually the shortest period of time that we've been. We usually go for 6 or 7 weeks. Um,
So I am excited to see you because
I know. Astrid and I are meeting. I mean, we've met before, but we get to actually see each other in person again, which has been way too freaking long. And
yeah, it's
yeah,
been since 2014, I think was the last time we saw each other in person.
I think so. Yeah.
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 So we planned it, so we're actually going to meet up, and our episode in August will be recording live.
Yes. So stay tuned for that. And then, yeah, let us know what your vacation plans are. And if you're if you're an expat or an immigrant who grew up in another country, like how is it different than how you grew up? Um, I gotta say, like we talked about this, like when I just to the point of your dad, like we would go away for we would go away for 2 weeks when I was a kid. We would drive down to North Carolina and we would spend 1 week at the beach. And then a week uh my godfather was the artistic director of a Shakespeare festival. So we would go and like to the Shakespeare festival. And but we would drive like the 10 hours and there had to be space in the car for my dad's fax machine because he as an entrepreneur like he couldn't there was nobody he could delegate the work to. So he like always like had, like obviously days of landlines before cell phones, but like he would always check into his voicemail and and have the fax machine ready to go if he was going to get a proposal or, or request, or if he had a proposal to send out. And yeah, I've never met a French person that has packed a fax machine in their car to take on vacations.
Well, these days, definitely not,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that didn't either. Um, oh, I know we were talking about this before, but one of the things that we did want to mention was traveling with kids, with smaller kids. Now I know you no longer have this problem because your kids pretty much can travel by themselves, but I still have a little one, and um, a lot of times they look at me funny because one, we have different colored passports depending on where we're going, and and if the dad's not there, they if you get a somebody who's somebody who will ask more questions at immigration or when you're checking in, like, are you stealing this child? Is this really your child? I've
Yeah.
had my child be asked, do you know this person? Is this who is this person? And they're like, Mama.
Yeah. Why are you
Then
asking me? I know who this is.
yeah, why are you asking me that? And what was it last year? No, 2 years ago. I traveled with my two daughters. So one at the time was 15, and the other one was two. And they basically asked both my older one and me about the little one, and then checked with the little one because you could barely speak, but to point and say who it was.
Yeah.
So what's really helpful there is I didn't know this in the beginning. Marissa said she was asked that before too and didn't have it with her. But take a letter from the other parent,
Yeah.
and it has to be notarized, unfortunately. So you have to, in the United States, you have to go to the bank for your free notary. And I don't know how it is in France or Germany where you get your notary from, but something that where the parent signed it and said, yes, my spouse or my um, child's mother or father is taking the the child out of the country. They are going XYZ country,
Yeah.
and I have knowledge of that. There's actually preprints on Google that you can just download too.
I was
But
gonna say back when we did it, the airlines had a form you could fill out, and I
oh,
don't remember having to notarize it, although maybe it's been so long. Here in France, you can go to the mairie, to the town hall, uh, and they'll do notary usually. But yeah, but I remember printing it out from Air France's website and filling it out, and we both had to sign it. Um, the other
definitely
thing,
do it when you definitely have to do it when you're divorced
yeah,
because yeah,
but this was, I
because
mean, Sean
otherwise
and I
you
weren't
have to.
divorced. It was just that I was traveling alone, like you were saying, just traveling alone with them, and and they were little, and and then we were talking about like, and you just mentioned like having, especially if your name is different. So I have two passports, two nationalities. Um, in one of my nationalities, it goes by your maiden name, so my passport name doesn't match the other passport name. Although there is a page that has like my married name on it, but it's not the signature page and the page with my picture. And so that was another thing that was really shocking for me when I started traveling with my kids too. And it was one of the reasons why we ended up filling out this form and really being like thinking about the importance of it, was because my passport name didn't match my kids'
Your
last
child
names.
passport.
Yeah. Although interestingly, like my kids do have the same passports as me, both of them. So the passports were the same color, but still it was like, well, just in case. Um, and we also learned, and I think this is like kind of along that, uh, we also learned which airports to travel through. And it's really interesting because when we traveled through specifically Amsterdam, we never got asked, we never got stopped, and they knew. Like they've been trained to do facial recognition before there was facial recognition. And I remember, like I that he looked my kids looked very similar. They were 3 years apart, but they looked very similar in their passport photos because they were babies when they had
Okay.
their passport pictures taken. Um, but they were uh like the guy just looked at them and was like, "Oh, this is Zachary, this is Owen." Like he knew right away, and he like knew that they were my kids. Can kind of look like me, but it was
Okay.
really really interesting to go like he like not smiling, like he was just very like and he's like he immediately knew and let us through. Um, it was a very different experience traveling through Paris. Paris, it was usually in Paris where we would, if I was traveling alone with the kids, where I would get stopped, never in Amsterdam. So, like, these are the things that you learn too, is like kind of how the different, like, people are trained in different systems. And, um, but yeah,
I got stopped in, I got stopped in Frankfurt in 22, and like, um, where are you going with this child? Where's the dad? I'm like, the dad left 2 weeks ago.
yeah,
Okay, and so we can't let you go without the dad. I'm like, the dad's in the States. He's waiting for us.
yeah.
Like,
Here's his phone number.
I'm
Call him. It's
taking this
3 a.m.
child back to him.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I get it, right? Like we can laugh about it because we know we're not stealing the kids. Like I know like this happens. So I would rather them err on the side of
Of caution.
caution, and I would rather fill out the form because it takes 5 minutes to do. Um, maybe a little bit longer if you have to go get it notarized, but right, it's a lot easier than having to navigate the whole the system of but um but yeah, that's just definitely another one of those challenges of traveling internationally with your children if you're traveling alone with them and not the other parent. Uh, and the other thing that we used to do, and you mentioned this with before we started recording too, was that I used to travel with their birth certificates, especially if we were uh, because one kid was born in France and one kid was born in the States, but they both have American passports and then they both have European nationality. It was it was like, okay, like just in case there's an issue, right? Or like just if their passport was getting close to like was within a year of needing to be renewed, right? And I was like, you never know if you're going to get again that person who asks questions who's like, your passport is getting close. Now in France, it's happening more and more. If your passport is going to expire in less than 6 months, they won't let you travel. Um,
Yep.
they're really sort of cracking down on that, and so it was like, okay, the U.S. has birthright citizenship. Like, I'm going to make sure I travel with the U.S. passport and the U.S. birth certificate just in case. And we would photocopy the passports and the birth certificates and always had like a backup version of that in case our passports got stolen or something happened. Um, because like the last thing you want to do is obviously deal with that um, can of
Yeah.
worms. So,
So Marissa and I are both a little OCD when it comes to that. I do the
yeah.
same thing. The birth certificate, actually, I carry the notarized copy of the birth certificate just because I don't want to lose the birth certificate because then I have to pay $15 to get it replaced. But that's just me being cheap. But yes, I carry the copy. I used to back in the day when my passport was still under my maiden name but still valid, and my German passport, but then my green card was my married name, so I would carry a notarized copy of the marriage certificate just
Yeah.
to make sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and
um,
it's funny because in France they have this, and I imagine they have something similar in Germany. I know they have the same thing in Belgium. They call it in French like a livret famille, right? Like
oh yes, they do.
that
Stammbuch
has
der
like
Familie.
your birth certificates, your marriage certificates, the kids' birth certificates, like all that stuff. Um, and like people do carry it around, and it's like it's a booklet that you go and you
Yes.
get from like from the town hall, and so we made our own version of it because obviously it's not being French, we don't have one, but we would get asked for it all the time. And so
Yeah.
all of those documents were in it. And when I would travel, I would make sure to have a copy of them too. Again, yes, you're right. We are OCD. But I think this is one of the things that, again, like it takes so little time to carry it compared to how much time you would have to deal with if you got that person who asked questions and was, and stopped you and you missed your flight, or you lost, your passport was stolen. Or I think having grown up traveling a lot and having a parent who traveled a lot for business, like these were things that were also sort of passed down, like here's the way to do it, because this takes a whole lot less time than if something goes wrong.
Right.
And and constant, I mean, again, part of the traveling, and that you don't want to waste your vacation time like sitting at the consulate trying to figure all this stuff out. So yeah.
Yes. As in terms of the expired passports, um, I don't know. I've never tried to do this in Germany, but in the United States, you can always, they have to let you back in even if your passport has expired.
I
Um, because I've had it happen multiple times, unfortunately, that I didn't realize my kid's American passport had expired, and I knew that German one was still good, so we would leave, and we always left on the German one. But then when we came back, they wanted to see the American one, and at check-in, they're like, "Well, this passport is expired." Like, oh, I had no idea. Okay. Uh,
here's the
and then they give you, the airlines gives you a hard time to check in, but the but the United States will, because they are citizens, you
right.
have to get citizens back in. Um, so just
Yes.
know this too. If
The
you have an
benefits
American
of
child,
birthright citizenship. Like there's no birthright citizenship here in France, so I don't know if that would work here. But it's interesting that you say that, because that's actually why I got my Belgian passport, was because I was traveling, and when I was 16, and my American passport was going to expire while I was traveling, and the wait time to get an American passport was wait, I don't know, it was like 2-3 weeks unless you went down and like waited in line, and I didn't want to do that. And my mom was Belgian, and she called the Belgian consulate, and they were like, "Yeah, just come in. Like, here's the date and time. Like, and you'll walk out with a Belgian passport." It was like a 2 hour, right? Like, obviously, my mom had to bring some paperwork, but she had a Belgian passport and was a Belgian citizen and was born in Belgium. And they were like, "Yeah, here you go." Like, and so I traveled on my Belgian passport when I was 16, that I like walked into the consulate and walked out with, because it was easier than going to get my American passport, easier and cheaper than going to get my American passport renewed in like the
but then you came
emergency.
back. But then how did you get back? You just
So, I
took
mean,
your
I got back easy. I think I had my American birth certificate with me. I traveled with my birth certificate and my Belgian passport. But I think even so, like, this was like the 90s, right? I think so many things have changed in the last 25 years, especially, but I don't even remember them asking for my asking. Like, they just like stamped it, and they probably thought I was coming on a tourist visa. I don't know. Or maybe they did. Maybe they looked at my birth certificate because it was in my passport and they said nothing. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of things have shifted and changed in the last 25 years, and especially um in the last few
six
years.
months?
Yeah. um
Because that's one of the things he wants to change, right? Was birthright citizenship.
yeah. Well, and I would say, I mean, even like at the beginning of COVID, I think a lot of these things started changing too. But yeah, it definitely, the passport, the passport thing and the traveling with kids, there's an extra level of, because for us, again, I mean, we're talking about challenges. We are here, we have European citizenship, so we are allowed to live in France as Europeans, but
Right.
we're Americans, so as Americans, if we were living here, we would need a visa. We don't have that visa because we're here as Europeans. So we have to travel with both passports, because if we traveled on just our American passport to get into America, um, we don't have, and we showed the passport when we arrived back in France. And this actually happened a couple of, maybe last year or the year before when we traveled. The customs agent was like, "Where's your visa?" Right? Because like he said, "Where do you, like are you coming for vacation?" And I was like, "No, we live here." This is when we were in Paris, and he said, "Where's your visa?" And I was like, "Oh no, we have dual citizenship." He's like, "I need to see your other passport." So
I
um,
always had to show my green card in
yeah,
addition to the passport. Every time they're like, well, do you have a green card? Or where's your ESTA? Which is like
yeah.
this on
When you're
the
coming
form.
in and they know you're coming back because they can see, right? Like I didn't have an issue when I came back, when I flew into the US and I showed them my American passport to go through customs just a few weeks ago. They didn't ask, but I imagine that it shows that they're um it shows that it's my like that there's a return flight, right? So and because they did said like, "Are you business or pleasure, or where are you coming home from?" And I said, "No, I live in France," like, right? So and I think it might have, if they ask your country of residence on the ETSA forms and all that stuff. So yeah, so there's always the like, you have to travel with the two passports, and then like you said, like you have to know or try to know when when is this passport going to expire versus this passport. And American passports for kids was every 5 years, but but Belgian passports for kids was every
6 years.
7 years. So they never are like that the same. They never expire in the same year, and um, so there are
Yeah.
these challenges of traveling.
But we'd love to hear what if there's anything we missed, please let
Yeah,
us know.
yeah.
Because
But
we
then, like
like
you
to
said, the pro side, at least coming from Europe, is like you have lots of vacation time that you get to go and burn and use those passports to go travel and visit new places or go home and see family. Um,
yeah, we usually use it to go home and see family.
yeah, yeah, same.
Except
Obviously,
for this year. We're using a week to come see you.
I love it. I'm so excited to see you in person. Um, for those of you who are listening, we're excited to get to know you. Maybe it's not going to be in person, but please do like drop us a comment, reach out via email, cultureclashparenting@gmail.com. Let us know about your experiences. Um, and yeah, how like
Let
we
us know if you're traveling this summer, where are you going? Is it someplace we should check out?
yeah, absolutely. I want to come. We want now that we're not going to be going back to the States as often, since all four of us won't have the same vacation anymore. When I go check out new
Yeah.
places. So anyway, it was wonderful, wonderful as always to hang out with you, my friend, and next time in New York together. And
Yay.
thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Thank you. We'll see you soon. Bye.